Janell gang, it's your girl Nicole here. Welcome back to my channel. So today I have a very serious story time to share with you guys. I just woke up from a nap and for some reason I decided that I wanted to share this story. I've actually been wanting to share this story for a long time now, but I've always felt like my platform wasn't big enough to share this story. And honestly, shouldn't matter if you have a platform or not. Like, this is a very serious story. It's a very serious subject. So I feel like if this has happened to you, or if anything like this has happened to you, please let somebody know, because it is just only going to get worse if you keep it to yourself, and you're never going to be able to get help, and you never know if somebody else out there has went through the same thing or is going through the same thing. So you never know what your story can do. This is not something that I ever would have thought would happen to me. I feel like people don't think like, oh, when I go on the airplane I could be sexually assaulted. Like, I never thought that this would happen to me. And I feel like people listen to stories and they hear things and they're like, oh, that'll never happen to me, so I don't need to worry about it. And I felt like this was something that I never even thought could happen to me. Without further ado, we're just gonna go ahead and get straight into the story time. So this story takes place in 2016. 2016 was a very weird year for me. It was the year that I turned 18 and I was just ready to go do things and be out in the world. And I feel like when you turn 18, you just feel like an adult. Like, well, technically you are an adult, but you feel grown. You feel like you can do anything you wanna do. I'm 20 years old now and I'm about to turn 21. So yeah, this happened in 2016. In the summertime in August. I was planning on visiting an old family friend, and this was my first time ever flying alone. I've flown before, but I was with my parents and my family members, but this was my first time flying alone. So I was really nervous about it. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm flying alone. Like, I was super nervous. I was asking my dad like a bunch of questions. He was telling me like, you're gonna be fine, don't worry about it. I never would have imagined that this would have happened to me when I was flying alone. I was at my airport, so I flew from my airport to another location, and I forgot where I was at. I think I was in, not Chicago, maybe I had 2 stops. I don't remember, but I know that it was one of the stops. It was like a connected flight, so it was at one of those stops. So I went from my airport to another airport, and it was at this airport that it happened. I don't remember which stop it was. Maybe if I can like find my old boarding pass, because I have it with me. If I can find that, I'll insert pictures here on the screen of that. So yes, it was at this connected flight this incident happened. So I was there. I was really nervous. I didn't want to talk to many people because I was nervous. Like, I was flying by myself. I didn't want to be around people. I just wanted to go straight to my terminal, sit there and wait for the plane to arrive. I was like, I'm not about to be wandering around here. I'm not doing it. I'm staying exactly where I need to go. I was sitting down and I noticed this white guy, and it was this tall white guy. He had glasses on, very short cut, and he had a little kid with him. So I noticed this white guy, and I was sitting down, and the plane had arrived and we was about to get called up to board the plane. And so I was sitting down in the chairs, and then there's a line like right here of people lining up to about to board the plane. So as I'm sitting down, I see this guy just keep staring at me, and I'm just like, okay. And I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but I'm kind of used to that. Like, I'm used to people just randomly staring at me, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. But I am usually like a really nice person. So when I see people staring at me, I don't know, I just don't know what to do. So sometimes I smile, or I'll just like wave, or I don't know. So I kind of just like gave him like a little half smile. Like, I just was like, why is this man staring at me? But I just kind of gave him like a little half smile, and I didn't really think much of it. So he saw that and he kept looking at me, he kept smiling at me, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, why is this dude being so weird? So after he was doing all that, he proceeds to sit next to me. So he's sitting by me, and like I said, I wasn't really thinking much of it. I wasn't like, oh, you know, why is this guy sitting by me? I was just like, okay, whatever. So he sat by me, and like I said, I noticed that he had a kid with him, and his kid sat on the other side of him. So as we're sitting down, this lady is looking at me in the line. She's kind of giving me this look like, you might want to move away from this guy because he's kind of creepy. And she noticed how he kept looking at me and kept staring at me and kept smiling at me. So she's seen the whole thing play out. And so she was kind of giving me that look like, you might want to sit somewhere else. but I didn't feel threatened. And I think the main reason why I didn't feel threatened by this man is because he had his kid with him. And for some reason, like, I don't know if it's just me, but like when I see people with their kids, like, I don't think that they would do something like this. Like, you don't think that somebody with kids would sexually assault somebody. Like, I don't think that, because I'm like, oh, he has a kid, so, you know. But I don't know, so that's why I didn't really feel threatened, because I'm like, oh, he has his son with him, like, whatever. Like, he can't be that bad of a guy, right? Absolutely wrong. As he's sitting by me, he has his phone, and I see him like typing on his phone, like I said, not thinking much of it. And then he all of a sudden hands me his phone, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, what? So I'm looking at it, and it's like, hey, he puts, hey, I think you're very beautiful. You're really gorgeous. I would like to get to know you. Can I have your number? And I was just like, what the hell? I guess he wanted to be like low key because there was people in the line, and he noticed that lady was looking at him. So I guess he wanted to be really low key, but I just thought it was really weird. So I typed back and I was like, oh, sorry, I don't really know you that well. I was like, I first said thank you, and then I was like, I don't really know you that well, so I can't give you my number. And I gave him his phone back. And then he starts talking to me, and he's like, hey, my name is this. And I'm like, oh, hi. And then we're talking a little bit, and then he tells me like, oh, when you line up, can you save me and my son a seat? And I was just like, okay, I'll try. But in my head, I'm like, hell no, I'm not about to sit with you and your son on the plane. Like, no, like, especially since I already know what you're trying to do. Like, I don't want to sit by you on the plane. So I'm telling him like, oh, okay, I'll try to save you a spot. And he's like, okay, cool. And it was my turn to line up. The airline that I was flying with, they go by like letters. So it was letter A, and then letter A, all the people from letter A went on the plane. Then letter B was supposed to line up. Then they board the plane. Then letter C, they line up, then board the plane. So I was letter B. So it was time for me to line up, and he's just staring at me, and he's like, save us a spot. Like, he's like mouthing it to me while I'm in the line. He's like, save us a spot, and like giving me a thumbs up, and everybody's just looking at me like, do you know this guy? Like, everybody was really confused because he's a white guy with the white kid, and then like I'm black, so everybody's just like, what the hell is wrong with this dude? So he's telling me like, save us a spot and all that, and I'm like, I don't know, I'll try. And so as I'm getting on the plane, as soon as I get on, I notice there's a middle, like there's two people, and then there's a middle spot available. Something told me to sit there. I know that was Jesus telling me like, sit there, you need to sit here. Like, I kept looking, I was like, no, but I don't want to sit in the middle. Like, I hate the middle seat. So I was like, I don't want to sit in the middle. And I noticed that there was some open seats all the way in the back of the plane. But something kept telling me, sit in that middle seat in the front. But I was like, nah, I don't want to sit there. Like, I kept dismissing it. I was like, nah. And now I realize that was Jesus trying to tell me like, no, you better sit there because something bad is gonna happen to you if you don't sit there. And honestly, you guys, you need to listen to your gut feeling. If you're in a situation and you feel like, I don't know about this, or if something's telling you to do something else, you need to follow your gut. You need to listen. I don't know if you guys believe in Jesus, but I do. You need to listen to the Holy Spirit. You need to listen to Jesus when he's telling you like, don't go there, or don't do this, or do this. Like, please listen to your gut, listen to Jesus, listen to whoever you believe in, whatever you feel, listen to that feeling, please. So I had this master plan in my head, like if he didn't see me, then maybe he would find somewhere else to sit. So I was like, I'm gonna go all the way to the back of the plane, sit down, and I'm gonna dunk. I'm already short, I'm only 5'2", so I was like, I'm gonna just duck my big old head, and hopefully he won't see me and sit somewhere else. Now that I think about it, that makes zero sense, because all he's gonna do is like look around for me and not see me, and then see some open seats that he think are open, and he's gonna go back there and he's gonna sit there, which is exactly what happened. So I'm thinking like, oh, I'm gonna outsmart him and hopefully he won't see me and sit somewhere else. Like, that was just so, what was I even thinking? Like, of course he's gonna go back there where he sees open seats. So of course I see him, he's coming back, and literally, you guys, he sees me. So he sits in the middle seat, I'm in the window seat, he sits in the middle seat, and his son is sitting in the aisle seat. And I'm just like, freak my life right now, and I'm so regretting not sitting in the middle seat. So by this time, his whole entire row has already sat down, everybody's already in their seats, and then letter C, they've already been in their seats, so that seat is already taken. And this was a full flight, and the pilot announced like, oh, every seat's gonna be taken, like wherever you're sitting now, like that's where you're gonna have to sit because we have a full flight. And I'm like, oh my God, like I should have listened to the Holy Spirit. It starts out cool, you know, he's talking to me like, oh, where are you from? Because he lived in the state where my connective flight was. I didn't live in that state, so I was like, no, I don't live here. I live in a different state. I'm about to go to Virginia to visit an old family friend and all that. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he's like trying to get my number. Really, he's like really flirting with me. Like the whole time he was talking to me, like, and I noticed that he was really touchy-feely. Like when he would laugh, he would touch me. Like he was like all in my personal space, and I was just starting to get really uncomfortable. And I was just like, oh my God, this is not gonna be good. I'm trying to like shut the conversation down because when I'm on the plane, I don't really like to do all that talking anyways because I just want to sleep because I had a really long day and I had another flight to catch after that. So I was just like, I need to get as much sleep as I possibly can. So I was not really trying to talk to this guy, but he just kept talking to me and kept talking to me, and he's like, this is my son, and I'm like, hi. He stopped talking for a little minute. So we're about to take off, and he turns to me and he asks, he's like, are you okay? Are you scared? I'm like, no, I'm fine, because like I said, I've been in planes before, I've been flying before, like I was perfectly fine. I was like, no, I'm okay. He's like, okay. And so he grabs my hand when we're taking off, and I was like, oh no, I'm okay. I kind of like brushed him off, and I was like, oh no, I'm okay, I'm fine. And he's like, okay. And so when we're flying, we finally took off, we're in the air, and I'm thinking like, okay, this guy's finally gonna leave me alone, I'm gonna be able to sleep, and everything's gonna be all fine and dandy. So literally this whole entire flight, I felt like I was fighting for my life. Like, not fighting for my life, that's a bit dramatic, but I felt like I was just in war with somebody. Like the whole time I was fighting somebody off of my body the entire plane ride. So we're in the air, and I'm telling him like, yeah, I'm gonna go to sleep. And I close my eyes, and I have my dad gave me a neck pillow, so I'm using my dad's neck pillow, and I am asleep. All of a sudden I feel somebody rubbing their hands up and down my thighs, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I was just like, I know he's not touching my thighs right now. But I kind of just brushed it off because I was like, okay, maybe I'm just like out of my mind. Maybe I'm dreaming right now. So I didn't do anything at first. But then I felt him squeezing my thighs. Like he was getting closer and closer to my private area. So I wake up and I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, nothing, I'm just trying to make sure you're okay. And I was like, I'm perfectly fine. I was like, I would prefer you to not touch me. Like, I'm fine. I promise you I'm fine. And he's just like, okay, I'm sorry. Like, I'll let you sleep. And so I close my eyes again, and I'm trying to sleep. And this is very hard for me to talk about because I just can't believe that somebody would continuously do this to somebody. Like, who does this? So I was wearing shorts and a little crop top, and so he's moving his hand all the way up my thigh again, and I feel him trying to dig his fingers under my shorts. And again, I wake up and I'm like, you need to stop doing this because this is making me very uncomfortable. Like, I cannot believe, I was in shock. Like, I could not believe that this man is touching me, and I'm telling him like, stop, I'm fine, leave me alone. And I was just so in shock, like I just didn't know what to do. I was not comfortable enough to go to sleep around this man, but I wanted to see like, what else is this guy going to do? So I played like I was asleep, so I act like I went back to sleep, but I was awake. And this man literally tries to unbutton my shorts. I feel him unbuttoning my shorts and trying to unzip my zipper. And I look at this man, I'm like, if you do not stop, I'm going to cause a scene on this plane. Like, I just cannot believe that you are doing this right now. And we're sitting here, I'm whispering to this man, and I don't know why. Like, thinking back, I wish that I would have screamed. I wish I would have been like, this man is touching me. Like, I wish I would have caused a scene. But for some reason, I just felt like nobody would believe me because, number one, he has a kid. And people look at that and they're like, oh, he has a son. Like, why would he do that? Like, same thing that I thought. Like, I'm looking at this man like, oh, he has a son. Like, why would he be doing that? Like, I don't know. Like, you just don't think that people would do that. And I felt like people would think that I was crazy or being dramatic, or I felt like he would flip it to make me look stupid. So for some reason, I just didn't want to cause a scene. And so I'm sitting here telling this man, like, leave me alone, stop touching me. He's grabbing my hands, he's squeezing my thighs, he's rubbing on me, he's trying to touch my private area. And the whole time, I'm like, the whole plane ride, you guys, I'm trying to move his hand, and the flight attendant kept going back and forth, and I kept looking at her like, please help me. Like, I just kept looking at her with this look like, I need help. And she looked at me, and I could tell that she was looking at me like, what's wrong with this lady? But she just couldn't quite figure out what was going on. And every time the flight attendant would come by, he would move his hand, or he'd be like, oh yeah, do you need anything to drink? Like, you know how they ask you on the plane, like, do you need anything to drink? And he would just be like, oh, did you need anything? Or no, she's fine, or she's okay, and everything's fine. Like, he was just sitting there like he wasn't doing anything. And literally the whole time, I had to keep moving this guy off of me. Like, he kept touching my legs, squeezing my legs, and then he tried to touch my boob. Like, he literally tried to touch my nipples and all this. And mind you guys, his son is sitting by him. His son is awake, and his son can see his dad doing this. And it's like, it makes me think, like, if you can do this when your son is sitting right next to you, like, that can only, like, that makes me wonder, like, what are you doing to him? Like, it makes me feel like you're doing this to him, because the son is looking at me, and he's looking at what his dad is doing like this is what his dad always does. Like, he's looking like, oh, this is normal. Like, they're just both like, oh, this is just normal. You know, and the son was probably like 7, 8. And I'm just like, this is so crazy. I just couldn't believe that this grown man was touching me and trying to feel on me and squeezing my thighs and just being so aggressive with me. And I just couldn't believe that it was happening to me. Like, in the moment, I didn't know what to do. I know some people are gonna be like, oh, if it were me, I would have done this, or oh, why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that? It's so easy to say what you would have done in this situation, but you really don't know what you would have done in a situation until you're in that situation. So it's so easy for you to say, you should have done this, you should have did this, or I would have done this, I would have done that. When I look back at this situation, there was a lot of things that I could have done to prevent this man. Like, there was a lot of things that I could have done. I could have gotten up to go to the bathroom and told the flight attendants, like, hey, this guy is touching me, I'm very uncomfortable. Like, there's a lot of things that I could have done. But in the moment, I was thinking like, oh, if I try to get up, he might tell me to sit down, or I don't know, I just didn't think that, I just didn't see a way out. I didn't see a way out. I could have caused a scene. I could have done so many things, and I know I could have done so many things. And that's why, in a way, that's why I felt like I didn't want to tell anybody about this, because a lot of people were like, oh, why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that? And I felt like people would have looked at me like, oh, you could have done so much more. I just felt like it was partially my fault for it happening, like continuing to happen the whole plane ride. I felt like it was my fault. But at the same time, it's like, it's not my fault, because somebody shouldn't be doing that anyway. Like, I shouldn't have to tell the flight attendant that I need to move seats because this grown ass man is touching me unwanted sexually. I shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that. So even though I didn't do much, and even though I didn't do what I could have done, this man should have never been touching me in the first place. Point blank, period. Or I was afraid that people wouldn't believe me. I was an 18-year-old girl flying to see my friend and not expecting a grown man to touch me like that. I was afraid. I didn't know what to do. It's not like I could text my mom and my parents and be like, this is what's happening, what do I do? Because we're on a fucking plane, you know? Like, I'm trying not to cry right now, but it's like, what am I supposed to do? Guys, people don't want to share these types of stories, and they don't want to share these things because, like I said, they feel like people are going to be like, oh, it's your fault. Like, a lot of people like they blame the victim, and a lot of people are like, oh, why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that, or da-da-da-da. And it's like, this person shouldn't have been doing what they were doing to me anyways. Like, he shouldn't have been touching me inappropriately in the first place. I just wanted to share this video with you guys because this is stuff that you need to be aware of. You know, this stuff happens, and like I said, I was one of those people who never would have thought that I would get sexually assaulted on the plane, and I did. Like, before we got off the plane, the guy literally like squeezed my hand, and he just looked at me and he was just like, you know, whatever happened on this plane is gonna stay between me and you. Like, he gave me his number. He was like, text me, I want to see you again. And I just was so disgusted because I was like, why would I want to see a man that has done that? We're getting off the plane. I was so shook. I was like in shock that that even happened to me. I remember going to the bathroom because his flight was another direction and my flight was the other direction. I remember going to the bathroom and I just started crying, and I was just like crying and crying and crying. And I remember like trying to wipe my eyes, and then my mom sent me a text and she was like, hey Huns, let me know when you get to your next flight or whatever, and are you okay? And I remember texting her and I was like, yeah, the flight was good, you know, I'm okay, because I was just so afraid. I knew that if I told my mom what happened, she would have made me do what I was supposed to do. She would have made me tell somebody, and she would have made me do what I just didn't want to do at the time. And I knew that my mom would have done a lot more than I would have done, and I was just afraid to tell her because I know how my parents are, I know how my mom is, and I just lied to her. It wasn't until I came back home that I told her what happened, and she was just like, wow, like she just couldn't believe that. And she was mad at me at first because I didn't do anything, or I didn't tell her at the time. But you know, she told me like, it's not your fault, it's okay, like that man should never been touching you, and you know, but it was just a crazy situation. I hope that you guys have gained some knowledge from this story, and just remember, like, anything can happen to you. You know, you might look at a story or hear a story and be like, oh, that'll never happen to me. But trust and believe, it definitely can happen to you. It does not discriminate. It can happen to anybody. And please let somebody know. Let somebody know if you are being touched inappropriately, if something has happened to you, if you are raped, molested, anything. Please let people know, because it can help you more than you think. Just me sharing this story has helped me so many more ways than you guys can imagine. Thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. I know that this was a heavier video, a little bit different video than I usually do, but I just wanted to share my story, get it off my chest, and share a different side of me to you guys. Don't forget to follow me on all my social media. It'll be in the description box down below. Thank you guys so freaking much for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, you guys.